Welcome everybody. Today we'll discuss the part 2 of chapter biological classification. This is the second chapter of class 11th biology. And in our previous part, that is in part 1, we have already discussed the two kingdom classification, five kingdom classification and kingdom Monera. And as you know that in previous session we have discussed that according to five kingdom classification system, the whole organisms, living organisms are grouped under five kingdoms. They are Monera, Protista, fungi, plantae and animalia. So we have already completed up to kingdom Monera. Today we will discuss kingdom Protista. Let us start the discussion. So kingdom Protista, under this again the Protists are grouped into different categories, that is chrysophytes, dinoflagellates, euglenoids, slime molds and protozoa. So let me first tell you the common feature of the kingdom Protista. So what kind of organisms are included under kingdom Protista? All the single cell eukaryotes are placed under Protista. Very, very important. The type of individuals or the organisms included under Protista are single celled eukaryotes. Okay. And the members of the Protista are primarily aquatic, and this kingdom, the organism of this kingdom form a link with other dealing with plants, animals and fungi. Like some of them, not always, but some of the organisms are linked with they show the plant like characters, they show the animal like characters, or they show the fungi like characters. So being eukaryotes, the protestant cell body contains a well-defined nucleus and other membrane-bound cell organelles. Because it is eukaryote, so membrane-bound cell organelles and a well-defined nucleus with nuclear membrane is present. And those protistans which are motile, they have flagella or cilia. And regarding the reproduction of Protista, they can reproduce both sexually and asexually. But the sexual reproduction takes place by the fusion of the cell. Because here the body of the organism is made up of a single cell. So the body itself, after attaining sexual maturity, act as gamete. So, as you know, during sexual reproduction, the fusion of the gamete takes place, and since in the protistans, the body itself acts as a gamete or the cell itself as a gamete, so they fuse to form the zygote. And now, as I said, that kingdom Protista is the organisms under this kingdom are grouped in different categories, that is chrysophytes, dinoflagellates, euglenoids, slime molds and protozoans. So let us start with chrysophytes. This chrysophyte, this group includes the diatoms and golden algae. Okay, I'll show you the picture of diatoms and golden algae. This is very, very important. You have to note down, please note down the type of organisms included under each group of the Protista. The chrysophytes includes the diatoms and golden algae, which are commonly known as desmics, and they are found both in freshwater as well as marine water. As I said, protistans are primarily aquatic, so they are exclusively aquatic, but they can be seen, they can dwell in both, some of them are freshwater, some of them are marine water living. And they are microscopic and float passively in water current. That's why they are known as plankton. Okay, most of them are photosynthetic. They contains the chlorophyll pigment and they float on the water surface and microscopic. Hence, they are known as plankton. Regarding the diatoms, as I said, the diatoms and golden algae. In diatoms, the cell wall form two thin overlapping shells which fit together as in a soap box. Like in a soap box, there are two parts are there, and in one part we keep the soap, and the other part, with the help of other part, we cover that one. So similarly, the structure of the diatom is just like a soap box. Okay, and the walls are embedded with silica, and thus the walls are indestructible because the wall is uh, embedded with silica. So the wall is never destroyed even after their death. So after the death of the diatoms, they leave a large amount of cell wall which is deposited in their habitat. Suppose they are marine, then these left out cell walls which are made up of silica are accumulated at the bottom of the, either in the sea bottom or in the freshwater body bottom. Okay, and after several years, after over billions of years, they accumulate and they form the structure that is called diatomaceous earth. This is very important for the examination point of view. What is diatomaceous earth, and why they are formed? This is one of the important question for your exam. And this diatomaceous earth is very gritty. Okay, and that's why it is used in polishing, filtration of oils and syrups. Diatoms are the chief producers in the oceans. I told you that they have chlorophyll and they float on the surface of the water body. So they get enough sunlight and they produce or they synthesize the food of their own. So they are the producers and they are the chief producers in the ocean. This point is also very important. Now you can see this is chrysophytes. So here a number of chrysophytes are there, different types, different shapes chrysophytes. So here you can see the common type diatom, that is, it is see how is the structure. It is unicellular, okay, but it has a structure like a soap box. The cell wall is forming a soap box like structure inside which the cell is present. Okay, and here you can see different shaped organisms like the chrysophytes are there, and these are the important features which I have already told you. The cell wall is made up of silica, um, that is aquatic, and most are marine, photosynthetic, reproduce sexually and asexually, unicellular, and they are the diatoms. Now, next category is the dinoflagellates. These organisms are also mostly marine and photosynthetic. That means they have chlorophyll, but they appear yellow, green, brown, blue, or red depending on the main pigment present in their cells. That means they have chlorophyll pigment so that they can synthesize their own food. They can carry out photosynthesis. But besides that, they also have different types of pigments in large number. So if yellow color pigment is present in large number, then the organism appears yellow. If the organism is having more number of brown pigment, then the organism appears brown, and so on. The cell wall has a stiff cellulose plate. It is made up of cellulose and from the on the outer surface, and they are motile. They are motile, hence they have two flagellae. As I said you, those protistans which are motile have either flagella or cilia. So the dinoflagellates, hence the name is dinoflagellata, because the dino means two. flagella. So for the locomotion, they have two flagella. Out of these two flagella, one is longitudinally present and other one is transversely present in a furrow between the wall plates. I will show you the diagram so that the structure will be very much clear to you. And very often the red dinoflagellates, it is, listen this point very carefully. This is very important from the examination point of view. The one example of red dinoflagellates. Red dinoflagellates means what? It is the organism included under dinoflagellates which contains chlorophyll. Along with chlorophyll, they have large number of red pigments. That's why they appear red instead of green. And they have two flagella. Okay. And the most common example is Goniaulax. So they undergo rapid multiplication and they make the sea appear red. So when the tide is produced in the sea, that tide appears red. So this is called red tides. So this is very important. What is red tide? How it is formed? And what is its effect? It has a very bad impact on the living organisms living in that particular part of the sea, because they release some toxins in such a large number that they even kill other marine animals such as fishes and other animals also. So from that view, it is very important. And how red tide is formed, what is red tide, and how it is harmful for the marine animals. So this may be one of the important question for your exam. So here you can see the picture. This is the Corneolax. As I said, the outer cellulosic plate. This is made up of cellulose. Okay, and here is the furrow. You can see here it is clear. This is the furrow. Okay, and there, as I said, there are two types of flagella. One is longitudinal. This one is longitudinal, and the other one is transverse. Okay, so this is transverse flagella and this is longitudinal flagella. So this is the structure of the common red dinoflagellate, that is Goniaulax, that produces the red tide. The next group is euglenoids. Majority of the euglenoids are freshwater organisms, and that too in stagnant water. Stagnant water means the water where there is no water current is that. That means the water is still. Okay. So instead of a cell wall, they have a protein-rich layer called pellicle, which makes their body flexible. In previous two cases, that is in chrysophytes and dinoflagellates, we discussed that they have a cell wall that is made up of either cellulose or as in case of diatoms, it is made up of silica. But here in euglenoids, instead of a cell wall, a protein-rich layer is present, that is called pellicle. And because of this pellicle, the body of the euglenoids are flexible. So during movement, they change the shape of their body and they can move from one place to another place. They have also two flagella. One is short and other is long one. And the most important feature in this group is that the organisms belonging to this group are photosynthetic. That means they have chlorophyll. When sunlight is present, they their mode of nutrition is autotrophic or photosynthetic. Okay, but when they are deprived of sunlight, when there is no sunlight, they behave like heterotrophs and they predate or they kill or they feed upon the other small organisms. So that's why these organisms are showing dual mode of nutrition. So when sunlight is present, they are photosynthetic. When sunlight is absent, they are heterotrophic and they are predating. They are killing and eating the other smaller organisms. So this is called mixotrophic nutrition, and because of this dual mode of nutrition, often these organisms are considered as connecting link between plants and animals, because plants can synthesize their food by photosynthesis, green plants, but animals can not synthesize food, rather they depend upon other organisms, so they are heterotrophic. But since this particular group is depending upon the sunlight at one hand, and the other hand when there is no sunlight, heterotrophic mode of nutrition is there. So that's why they are considered as the connecting link between plants and animals. Okay. And the most important thing is that the chlorophyll pigment present in the euglenoids are similar to those present in higher plants. And the most common example is euglena. So, see, it is very easy to remember the name initially, because you are very fresh for this course, that is biology. You may find difficult to memorize the terms, but if you memorize the like the group, then easily you can memorize the example. Or if you memorize the example, the common example, then you can memorize the uh, name of the group. So here you can see the euglenoid, the common example, as I said, this is euglena, and this euglena, here you can see there is no cell wall. Instead of that, a protein sheath is present, which is flexible. And as I said, there are two flagella. One is short, which is present within this group, and other one is long, which helps in the locomotion. And besides that, by changing the shape of the body, this organism can move from one place to another place. Okay. And besides that, here you can see the chloroplast, which are similar to that present in the higher green plants. Okay. So this is the example of euglenoids. The next come to slime molds. This is another group of protistans. They are saprophytic protists. So till now we are discussing the photosynthetic, and the euglenoid was both photosynthetic and heterotrophic. But slime molds are saprophytic protists, and you know what are saprophytic nutrition? It is the type of nutrition where the organism obtain their nutrients from the dead organic matters in the soluble form. Okay. So here the body of this organism moves along decaying twigs and leaves, engulfing organic materials. Suppose there is a decaying twig, then the organism, the body of this organism will move along with that. Okay. And it will obtain the food from that decaying part of the twig or any organic material. The most important feature of this slime mold is that under suitable condition or under favorable condition, they form an aggregation. They aggregate. They form a colony-like structure that is called plasmodium. Okay, and this plasmodium, uh, this is the aggregation of the slime molds. A number of slime molds. Now, when they accumulate and aggregate, that structure grow and spread over several feet. So, a plasmodium of slime mold can be of several feet. So, this takes place only under suitable condition or favorable condition. Let us see what is its advantages. During unfavorable condition, so favorable condition, they have aggregated, they have formed the plasmodium. Now what is the advantage of this plasmodium? During unfavorable condition, the plasmodium differentiates. and forms fruiting bodies bearing spores at their tips. That means the plasmodium develops into the asexual reproducing bodies. Okay, so here, as I said, that during when the unfavorable condition comes, the fully grown plasmodium is now mature and it differentiates and it forms the structure which bears the asexual spores, and that structure is called fruiting bodies. So this is the very special, very specific feature of this particular group of protista. Then these spores, they possess a true cell wall. Okay, the spores are nothing but cells, so they possess a cell wall, and because of the presence of the cell wall, they are extremely resistant and can survive for many years even under very adverse or harsh condition. Okay, that is possible due to the presence of the cell wall. And after the formation of the spore during unfavorable condition, when the condition is dry, then what happens? The plasmodium differentiates to form the fruiting body. Then the fruiting body produces spore inside it, and the uh, because now the condition is dry, so the from the fruiting body the spores are dispersed or by air, or they are taken away by the air from one place to the other place. Yes, here you can see this is the structure of a plasmodium, how the plasmodium is formed. So this is not a single organism. So here a large number of organisms are there. So now this uh, large number of organisms, they have formed a sheet-like structures. As I said, this is a plasmodium, and this plasmodium now it has attained maturity, and it forms during unfavorable condition. It forms the sporangia, the fruiting bodies. I was telling you about the fruiting bodies. So these are the fruiting bodies. So inside the fruiting bodies, here this is the fruiting body, sporangia, inside which the spores are present. How the spores are present? Formed, they develop after the formation of the sporangia, the cells present inside it divide by meiosis, and the spores are produced. Now these spores are dispersed by air. See here, this is one spore, and that is carried by air from one part, the region where the plasmodium is present, to the other region, and where they develop into another, that is the another plasmodium. So here you can see how it is developing, the spore is developing into a plasmodium. So here what happens, again they can undergo sexual reproduction. Similarly this can also the other type of spore can also produce another type of gamete, and they fuse together, because originally the organism is diploid, but here the spores are haploid. So, but the organism should be produced from the zygote, which should be diploid. So, here what happens? They form two types of spores, and these spores, which are haploid, now they fuse to form the zygote, and now the zygote develops into another slime mold organism that again may form the plasmodium. So, this is the life cycle of plasmodium or slime mold. Now the next group is protozoans. So what is the common feature of these protozoans? Body is naked or bounded by a pellicle. So they don't have cell wall. So instead of cell wall, some of them are having a outer protein rich covering that is called pellicle. But some of them may not have this pellicle covering. Um, so this is uh, in some forms it is may be covered with shells and often provided with internal skeleton. Okay. like foraminifera. So they have internal skeleton, hard structure is present that provides the frame, the structural framework to the organism. The single cell body performs all the essential and vital activities. The cell is well organized, and this cell characterize the animal body, hence only subcellular physiological division of labor. So since the single cell is performing all the activities, the cell has different cell organelles, and these organelles perform very specific functions. So it is called subcellular physiological division of labor. Okay. Then the locomotory organs are finger-like, maybe finger-like. When they are finger-like, they are called pseudopodia. When they are whip-like, they are called flagella. When they are hair-like, they are called cilia. Or some of them may not have the locomotory organelles. And their nutrition may be holozoic, like animal-like, holophytic, plant-like, or saprozoic or parasitic. So they can have any kind of, any mode of nutrition. So different organisms are having different mode of nutrition. The respiration in this organism takes place by simple diffusion through the general body surface or cell surface. The common example is amoeba. And besides that, they have a specific type of vacuole that is called contractile vacuole, which performs the osmoregulation. Osmoregulation means what? The water balance. Water balance. So when excess of water is there in the body, then that water is removed along with the excretory products. Okay. So the osmoregulation, in this way, the contractile vacuole maintains the water balance inside the body of the cell or the organism. And regarding the reproduction, they reproduce asexually by binary fission or multiple fission or budding or sporulation. But sexual reproduction, it is of very rare occurrence. After several asexual reproduction, they undergo sexual reproduction, and this sexual reproduction is called conjugation or hologamy. Okay, so or by the formation of the gamete formation, that is called syngamy, that is fusion. Here what happens, the body of the organism is made up of one cell, so the organism itself acts as a gamete. They fuse for sometimes temporarily, then they exchange their genetic material, fuse. After the fusion of the genetic material, they get separated. So this is for reorganization of their body. Then in encystment, it commonly occurs to resist the unfavorable condition of food, temperature and moisture, and also helps in dispersal. So when there is no sufficient food or some suitable temperature or suitable moisture is not there, then that is the unfavorable condition for that particular organism, and under that condition the cell or the organism itself secretes a layer that may be 2 to 3 layer around it, that is called cyst. So, and the process of formation of cyst is called encystation or encystment. So, this cyst protects the organism inside it, and it also helps the, because the condition is dry, there is no moisture, and due to formation of a cyst, the body of the organism becomes lighter, so that they can be carried from one place to another place by air current. So the encystment also helps in dispersal of the organism during unfavorable condition. And here are the examples: Euglena, amoeba, plasmodium, paramecium, podophyra. So see here, as I said, that the protistans are can be linked with other group of organisms. So here you can see Euglena, that is categorized under euglenoid. But since they are having the type of nutrition, their nutrition mode of nutrition is similar to that of amoeba or any other organism to some extent. So they are categorized under this also. But they are primarily included under euglenoids. Okay. So other examples are amoeba, plasmodium, paramecium, podophyta, etc. So you can see. So this is plasmodium, structure of plasmodium that causes malaria. Okay, so there are different stages in its life cycle which causes malaria, and the carrier is mosquito, that you know, female Anopheles mosquito. Here you can see the euglena, often it is grouped under protozoans. Here you can see this is paramecium, shoe-shaped organism, and in all the cases you can see the contractile vacuoles are there. So here also the contractile vacuole is there. So they maintain the osmoregulation or water balance. Okay, and here the common one that you know is amoeba. Okay, now the classification of protozoan. The protozoans are classified into different groups basing on the type of locomotory organelles present in them. Okay, so these are the classification. You can see that is amoeboid protozoans, flagellated protozoans, ciliated protozoans, and sporozoans. These are the four groups. So here in the picture you can see the amoeboid protozoans mainly includes the amoeba. So what is the locomotory organelle in amoeba? It is pseudopodia, finger-like projection pseudopodia. So they are called amoeboid protozoans. They are also called, that group is also called Sarcodina. Okay. Then the next one is flagellata. They have the flagella as the locomotory organelle. So flagellates. Then ciliated protozoans, they have cilia as the locomotory organelles. They are ciliates. And sporozoans. Sporozoans, they don't have any locomotory organelles. So basing on the type of locomotory organelles, the protozoans are classified into these four groups. So see here you can see the Sarcodina or the amoeboid protozoan. Here example is given Rhizopoda. Then this is that is also called the Sarcodina, Rhizopoda and amoeboid are same thing, same name for a single group. Then ciliata, you can see here the cilia are present as locomotory organelles, and in Rhizopoda you can see the the pseudopodia are there in the organism. Even in amoeba also you might have observed. Then flagella, you might have observed that in euglena flagella is the locomotory organelle, and in sporozoa, that is plasmodium. Take the example of plasmodium. They don't have any locomotory organs. Okay. So let us discuss the group one by one. So this is the list of locomotory organelles. So Sarcodina, the common name is sarcodine, locomotion by pseudopodia, example amoeba. You can see the picture. What is the locomotory organelle here? It is finger-like projection, that is pseudopodia. Then ciliophora, ciliata, cilia is the locomotory organelle. Here throughout the body, small hair-like structures are present, that is called cilia. Then Sarcomastigophora. Okay, that means they are flagellata. Okay, that means they have the flagella as the locomotory organelles. Here the Trypanosoma is shown here, which has a flagella whip-like structure as the locomotory organelle. Then Sporozoa, which do not have any locomotory organelles. That is Plasmodium that causes malaria in human being. Okay, so amoeboid protozoans. These here you can see in the picture the very common example amoeba is there, and these organisms live in fresh water, seawater or moist soil. They move and capture their prey by putting out pseudopodia, which is also called false feet. Pseudopodia are nothing but the finger-like projections formed out of the cell itself. Okay, and the marine form, the amoeboids which are marine form have a silica cell made up of silica. That's why there is a skeleton on their surface, and a definite shape is maintained. And some of them, like Entamoeba, are parasites. Plasmodium, Entamoeba is a parasite which has different stages in its life cycle, and during some stages they have pseudopodia as their locomotory organ. Then see flagellated protozoans here in the picture. Trypanosoma gambians is given, which causes sleeping sickness. That is called African sleeping sickness. The members of these groups are either free living or parasitic. They have flagella. You can see the pre-flagella is there here. And with the help of flagella, they can move from one place to another place. And these parasitic form, particularly Trypanosoma gambians, causes disease like sleeping sickness, African sleeping sickness. The next come to ciliated protozoans. So this is the example of Paramecium. They are aquatic, actively moving organism because of the presence of thousands of cilia. So here you can see the hair-like, small hair-like structures are there present throughout the body. Okay, and due to the presence of this cilia throughout the body surface, they move very actively in the water, and they have a cavity that is called gullet. So here you can see the cavity. This is called gullet that opens to outside of the cell surface. So it has a mouth-like structure. Okay, and the coordinated movement of rows of cilia causes the water laden with food to be streamed into the gullet. That means, so here in the gullet you can see some cilia are there. So when they move, what happens? Whatever food particles are present in the water are filtered. These cilia directs the food particle to enter into it, and only food particles are filtered into the that is inside the body, and they form the food vacuole. So here you can see the how the food particles are moving inside, and the cilia help them to move inside, and then after being inside the cell, they form the food vacuole. Okay. Then the next group is Sporozoa. As I said, the Sporozoa, they don't have any locomotory organelles. Uh, why they are called Sporozoa? Because these organisms have an infectious stage, that is a spore-like stage in their life cycle. That's why they are called Sporozoa. Okay, and the most notorious is the Plasmodium that causes, commonly known as your malaria parasite, which causes malaria, and which has a staggering effect on human population. And it is the most common, best known Sporozoa is Plasmodium, and these Plasmodium, they invade into the liver cell, red blood cell, where they multiply, and then they destroy the RBC as well as the liver cell and cause malaria fever. Okay. So here in this part we completed the kingdom Protista. In our next session, we'll discuss kingdom fungi, kingdom plantae, kingdom animalia, viruses, viroids, prions, and lichens. Thank you. Thank you for watching.